Ever had a few original phrases or a bit of a melody that stuck in your head and you wondered, how could you turn this into a song? I'm Elysabeth Alfano, host of the TV show, web series, and podcast, The Celebrity Dinner Party. Musician, songwriter, teacher, and author, Steve Dawson joins me from the WGN radio studios in Chicago. Longtime band member of the group Dolly Varden and dedicated teacher of songwriting, Steve's new book, Take It to the Bridge, co-authored with veteran journalist Mark Caro, is now out and available on Amazon.com. Now, having taken Steve's class myself a few times, I can say that Steve is truly a gifted teacher and songwriter, and that his songwriting class and process, now conveniently conveyed in his book, Take It to the Bridge, are truly life-affirming. So pull up a chair, grab a drink, and get ready to take some notes. After a quick word about podcasts, I'll be right back with singer-songwriter Steve Dawson. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, The Celebrity Dinner Party, with me, Elysabeth Alfano, on iTunes. Just search for The Celebrity Dinner Party. Or, if SoundCloud is your thing, you can find me there too by searching for The Celebrity Dinner Party. Subscribe and you'll never have to hunt for engaging and inspiring interviews again. They'll just land on your computer or your iPhone every time a new podcast comes out. So subscribe now to The Celebrity Dinner Party with me, Elysabeth Alfano, because the best conversations really do happen over dinner. So Steve Dawson, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me in.
So you are the lead singer-songwriter for Dolly Varden, of course.
Yes, that's true.
In Chicago people, you've probably seen him somewhere playing around with Dolly Varden, I would hope, and a singer-songwriter in your own right. Now, I also have seen Dolly Varden all around town, but specifically I know you because of your teaching at the Old Town School of Folk Music.
Right. Yeah, you took a couple of classes, didn't you?
I want to say, and I'm sad that I'm fuzzy on this, I think I took 2 classes.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think I felt that I need, because first of all, I loved it so much, your songwriting class at the Old Town School of Folk Music. And then I felt that I got so much out of it that it wasn't repetitious at all for me to actually sign up and take that exact same class again.
Cool.
And it's so funny that you and I have connected because you've put out a book, Take It to the Bridge, Unlocking the Great Songs Inside You. Just when this book came out in October, I was saying to myself, I have to recontact Steve Dawson because I'd like to get myself into one of his classes again. I feel that I could benefit from taking that class a 3rd time.
Wow.
And
cool.
so I wanted to, and now I'm in LA a lot. I work there, and I also work in Chicago, of course, my hometown. I will never leave it. So I'm back and forth, and it makes it a little tricky to get in a class when you're not here every week. And then, lo and behold, you made a book as if it were just for me about how to write songs. So I want to talk about this book, but before we get into that, maybe you could give us a little of your history. Take us back just a little bit and talk to me about how you got into music and how you got into songwriting specifically.
I've always been a music lover since I was a little kid. I remember listening to Beatle records and, using my mom's tennis racket as a pretend guitar to, watching the Monkees and loving that show. So I think it was always destined to be. And then in 7th grade, they offered guitar as an elective, and I took it.
7th grade?
7th grade, yeah, in the Idaho public school system, which is pretty shocking and awesome. And I took a guitar class with this sort of like hippie woman named Miss Terry, who changed my life. She loved music so much. And she loved John Denver so much. So we learned all the John Denver songs, but we didn't just learn them. Like, she got inside the songs and was like, what is John thinking in this song? Like, what is he trying to say? So I was like, songs weren't just a vehicle to strum chords. They were important, meaningful things. I think that made an impact on me. And then, as I learned to play guitar, my parents and my aunts and uncles and my sister, everyone was buying me songbooks, which at the time, that was the way you learned songs. So I got a Beatles songbook, of course, but I also got like Neil Young and Paul Simon and Bob Dylan. And I just started learning all these songs. And I guess I thought at some point, well, I guess I should try this. It seemed like the natural progression. Like all these guys wrote songs, and I'd never heard of them because I was pretty young.
So you mentioned a couple of things there that really strike me. First, the power of a good teacher.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, there were other things going on that led you in this direction. Sometimes you say you don't even have that much joy in writing. Just you're so driven, you're almost catapulted into doing it. So obviously there are other things going on in your particular makeup that send you to music and songwriting. But the power of a great teacher, someone who can inspire you early on, I think you also can force yourself to sit down and be creative. So the power of a great teacher.
Yes.
But also, whenever I do have the time, and I'm disciplined enough, another subject we'll talk about, to sit down and play piano, which, I learned as a kid and I've never been very good, but it does give me a lot of joy when I can stick with the discipline. I'm better at math and I'm better at reading. So my reading skills double in terms of speed and retention.
Wow.
And my math does as well. In terms of just like scratch on the back of a newspaper, I have to pay some bills today. I'm better with numbers and manipulating them, and I'm better with reading because I've been in music.
That's interesting. It's interesting that you noticed that, too.
I can see an immediate jump.
Wow.
And I mention this because, if you don't mind saying, how old were you? What was the year, actually, when you were in Idaho taking
that would have been
lessons?
1977, 78.
So what are the chances that Idaho still has funding for guitar lessons?
Yeah,
in the
that's probably
seventh
not
grade?
not a chance.
I'm pretty sure that's gone, right? Yeah, I could bet on that with some good Matilda beer and be sure that I would win that bet. It's probably not around. And gosh, that's really a shame. So we rely on people like you more than ever giving lessons at the Old Town School of Folk Music. And I am going to give the hugest plug possible that everybody should take your music class. Really, it's so good in so many ways. And we're, of course, going to talk about that as well right after I go to break, which is already here. But I'll be back with Steve Dawson, so sit tight.
You with the scissors and me with the thread. Smile knowingly at the newlyweds. But now's not the time for truth, you said. So we danced through the night instead.
Ah, the luscious sounds of Steve Dawson, and I believe that's Diane Christensen there.
Actually, that is a woman named Ellen Cherry from Baltimore. We made an EP together this year that came out this spring.
Okay, so that's not with Dolly Varden then.
That's not. No, that's a separate project.
Ooh, throwing me a curveball. And I will say for the record, your wife, Diane Christensen, does sing with you and
do backup
harmonies.
Yeah, we've been
and
singing
vocals
together for almost 30 years.
Yeah, almost as long as you're married, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, okay, so let's go back to your teaching at the Old Town School of Folk Music. How did you work teaching into your portfolio of life, basically?
Well, it was a transition from sort of actively touring with Dolly Varden through the early 2000s. And we took a break with the band because we'd been pretty actively touring through like 99 to 2003. And then the rhythm section both got married and had babies. And we decided to take a little time off.
So they were in sync?
They were totally in sync. Their kids were born like within months of each other. It was funny. And I needed a better way to make a living. I'd been working in a record store for far too long. And so a friend of mine, Joel Patterson, was working at the Old Town School of Folk Music. And he said to me, Steve, you would be perfect for this job. And I always thought, I thought that place was pretty cool, but I'm not really a folk singer is what I thought. But and it's sort of a problem. I don't know if it's a problem, but the school has so many facets and so is so sort of like expansive that the folk music thing is kind of limiting in the name. But but it's also an honor to a tradition. So anyway, I applied there and I got hired, and it really has changed my life. I mean, I think teaching is it feels really natural to me, and I get a lot. I get a lot from it, and I think the students get a lot from it. And
so you've been teaching since 2004? No,
I started in October 2005.
Okay,
so like 11 years.
11 years, and your classes sell out all the time. I know that I got booted from a couple classes, and I was waitlisted, and it didn't come through, and I was like waiting for my class with Steve Dawson. Okay, so one of the things that I love about your class, which is just songwriting, basically songwriting 101, right?
Well, they've renamed them now as Songwriting Fundamentals and Continuing Songwriting.
Okay. So you can take either. I don't think I even graduated to continuing songwriting. But I'll say, for anyone who is looking for just a tiny creative outlet, not changing your life, not looking to support yourself and your kids on music, but just a tiny bit of expression. So writing the great American novel, huge, big ordeal. Writing a little snippet song might be 30 minutes, might come to you on the L, might just even encourage you to have a notebook that you keep with you, even if you never write anything down in it. But the fact that a song could come together, an idea, a riff, a lyric, a catchy phrase, that this could, inspire you on the L. Just even that belief that kind of comes from taking Steve's class is worth the class in and of itself. This class and this book, Take It to the Bridge, Unlocking the Great Songs Inside of You, really demystifies the process and lets us know that basically anyone can do it.
Excellent. That is exactly the point. And that's the thing I learned in teaching, is that just people walking around that you would never suspect are songwriters in disguise. I've had so many people come through that have written these beautiful songs out of the blue that had never tried before. And, I prior to teaching, I always thought it was this kind of rarefied thing. But, people are meant to be musical. I think it's part of who we are. And just, I think the word unlocking in the title is really correct. Because once you sort of like open that door and say, okay, I can do this now, things start to show up.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful thing.
So you lead me to a great quote by Isabel Allende, who says that when she's writing, she shows up, she shows up, she shows up, and eventually the muse shows up as well. So again, another point about this isn't that you have to be extra super talented. Maybe talent isn't even necessary at all. You just have to be willing to show up, give yourself a half an hour on the L to kind of focus just on scribbling some ideas down, or, your 20 minutes before you go to bed at night, or whatever. The smallest a bit of time, if you can do it consistently. Again, this book I think would be very helpful. So if you can't get to the Old Town School of Folk Music for a class, there is this book. But just to scribble down thoughts and ideas and then start to shape them to basically the format that anyone can learn, because you already know it. You sing so many songs in your head. You already know the format of a song, basically verse, chorus, verse, maybe bridge, maybe not. I was completely floored when I learned this from your book. You don't even need to be able to read music or necessarily play an instrument.
Oh, no.
Explain to me how that could be.
Well, I think music is an oral tradition. Popular music is an oral tradition. And, anyone can sing in the shower or sing along with the radio. There's musicality in what you do. There's musicality in speaking.
There's musicality in speaking.
So you already know. I mean, I think one of the big points of the book is you already know how to do this. It's just basically the book more or less gives you permission to try and not say, well, I can't do that. Of course you can do it. You're already doing it. I mean, everybody sings little songs in their head. It's just a matter of finding something that's interesting to you that you feel like singing. And I do think it makes you a more content person and maybe a more compassionate person, because you're looking around and expanding your view and thinking about feelings and how things affect others. I mean, I just think it's any creative enterprise is expansive and hopefully makes you more content.
I think that's actually right, because there's a lot of power in having a voice. And even if no one ever hears what you ever do, there's a lot of power for yourself in just using your voice.
Right.
That not just the vocal cords, but your thoughts and expressions through creativity. There's a lot of power in that. But all this chit-chat about power, we're about to go to break, but I wondered if we could get a quick song right in before we do.
Sure. You were playing up at the top a song called Obsidian. I thought that was one that I was going to play, so they've already heard the intro, so...
Hit it.
I'll just play that from...
You should know by now, everything you say will be misinterpreted. Turn around right now. Every step you take leads you. Come on now, Obsidian. Soften your skin, let the change begin. Come on now, the soft clay of your heart is a place to start. I pray that you can. You should see yourself contorting into shapes to try and re-explain yourself. We would all just laugh if it wasn't such a shame this time. It's a matter of life and death. Come on now, Obsidian. Soften your skin, let the change begin. Come on now, the soft clay of your heart is a place to start. I pray you can. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now.
Oh my gosh, Steve Dawson in the house. We got to go to break. We will be right back with Steve Dawson.
I didn't realize till I spoke the words that it would break her heart.
So before we went to break, we were talking, Steve Dawson and I, about can you teach yourself some of the tools to creativity? And if so, does this mean that anyone can be a singer-songwriter? And I think the answer to that is yes.
Yes. If you allow yourself, you just give yourself permission to do that, you can do it, yes.
And so I think some of the things that trip people up, in addition to fear, which is the ever big tripper, is, some of the nitty gritty, like what comes first in songwriting, the music or the words?
Well, the truth is it works best if they come more or less simultaneously. As soon as words are married to music, the idea of turning it into a song or having it have sort of flow into a song, it makes more sense. The most trouble I've seen students have is where they'll write an entire lyric and then decide to set it to music. Or vice versa. If someone's written this beautiful guitar piece and then say, well, now I just need words, I was like, you're doomed.
Really?
Yeah. It seems to me it works best if you can sort of like have them hand off. So if you get a line of lyric, attach a melody to that, and let that melody determine the rhythm and the syllable count and all that stuff towards the next line of lyric. And have it sort of like step together.
That's really helpful. So they sort of inform each other, which is,
yes.
I guess, ideally, now that I mention it, now that I say those words, it sounds like, okay, that does make the most
yes.
sense.
Yeah, otherwise, I mean, if you have a lyric that has sort of like odd syllable counts or that the lines aren't symmetrical, when you try to set it to a melody, it just has a randomness that is just not conducive to music. So,
Mm-hmm. And again, your book, Take It to the Bridge, co-written by the ever great Mark Caro, journalist Mark Caro, and you yourself, Steve Dawson, has a lot of exercises in the back
yes.
of how to get people started, because I think sometimes starting is just the hardest bit of all. If you can put aside that fear that, I'm not good enough or I don't have talent, or, all that stuff we all tell ourselves, okay, just take that whole thing, get rid of it. All you have to do is sort of give it a chance.
Right. So I've been teaching songwriting at the Old Town School for over 10 years, and I've, done literally hundreds of assignments because I give a weekly assignment in the classes. So this is basically the best of like assignments that I've made up, and the ones that seem to keep coming back because they're useful, especially in the songwriting fundamentals class. So like you had mentioned the thing about the photographs, and there's a really basic approach to syllable counting and to melody writing and all that kind of stuff. So that it's sort of like, I don't know what you say, test marketed through the
through the years of Old Town School of Folk Music classes.
So which ones work the best and seem to, turn the lights on best for people trying this out.
And you've been teaching students, as we said, for 11 years. Do sometimes students surprise you? People who never tried it before, and then they come out with something of a doozy?
No, it is consistently inspiring and often overwhelming how good the stuff people come up with is.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that to me is sort of life affirming as well. That people can just kind of get it out there, and then there you have it. There's something from nothing.
Right.
So tell me about yourself. What kind of success do you feel from this? I always think it's so hard being a musician. I mean, all the art forms are difficult in terms of struggling to survive. But music, so very few people really hit it big with this cash that comes running through because they've had a pop smash. So
right.
if you know that, or if you accept perhaps early on that you might be one of the gazillions that don't get that, how do you define success for yourself?
Well, it's changed as I've gotten older. Of course, I used to, be pursuing that sort of brass ring through my 20s and into my 30s, and, got pretty close with major label deals and all that kind of stuff. But as I've gotten older, and especially since I've been teaching, the success is more about creating things that I'm proud of and things that feel true and have some kind of value, lasting value, not monetary value. That the work is more important than any sort of outward success. Outward fame, I guess, or notoriety is not as important as the work itself. It really has become like a calling, and I guess it always was, even as a little kid. It was like I always wanted to make music like the music I loved. It wasn't so much that I want to be famous and all that kind of stuff. So,
well, I think what you do has lasting value, not just your classes at the Old Town School of Folk Music and not just your new book, Take It to the Bridge, co-written with Mark Caro, Unlocking the Great Songs Inside You, but your own original music itself. So I wondered if you could close us out. You see, this interview goes so fast. Yeah. It's like you just got here. I wondered if you could close us out, take us home, and give us one more live song. Here is Steve Dawson.
Break the skin medicine, fill this fever dream with hope. Steal the blood, make it good, give a reason clear to cope. It is long overdue. It is long overdue. Pack your books, meet the train, you are gonna have to run. Wait a minute, don't you panic, there is time now to forgive. It is long overdue. It is long overdue.
Steve Dawson hitting the high notes with me here in WGN Radio. Thank you for being here. It
Thank you
kills
so
me
much.
to say goodbye because I know that there's so much more we could talk about with songwriting. But if anybody's interested, he gives the greatest classes in the world at the Old Town School of Folk Music. His book, which really helps anybody, the average person off the street, can write beautiful music. His book, Take It to the Bridge, co-written with Mark Caro, Unlocking the Great Songs Inside You. Steve Dawson, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you.
If anybody liked that and you want to see it again, you can go to my Facebook page because I did videotape both of his songs today. So you can go to my Facebook page, Elysabeth Alfano, or you can hit up my Twitter or Instagram, Dinner Party CHGO.
Thanks for joining in on The Celebrity Dinner Party with me, Elysabeth Alfano. To stay in the know, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Dinner Party CHGO and on Facebook at Elysabeth Alfano and at The Dinner Party. To subscribe to this podcast, find The Celebrity Dinner Party on iTunes and on SoundCloud. And if you want to send me an email about today's podcast or anything else, you can find all my information at www.thedinnerparty.tv. The editor of The Celebrity Dinner Party is Andrew Jensen and Kevin Richter. The original music is by the Websters and Ship Captain Crew. Of course, today, we also had original music by Steve Dawson. Thanks for listening today, and see you again on the next Celebrity Dinner Party, where the best conversations happen over dinner.